Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for coordinator for inviting me for this particular lecture. And is Munawar Fairuz from TKM College of Engineering, working as an assistant professor there. As everybody know, the road safety has been a serious concern for both the policymakers and for the society. It has been a serious concern of the last few decades. Now, coming to there are several measures which can be adopted to improve or augment the safety, but I'm focusing on it. It takes a lot of time, not in just 1.5 hours. It is not possible to cover all aspects of safety. I would just like to focus on a few areas like engineering and education measures. It may not be comprehensive enough, but I would like to give you a few insights and my experiences of working in the area of road safety. So my topic is engineering and education measures for augmenting road safety in India. Let us look at the global scenario really happening in the global. According to World Health Organization, more than 1.25 million people die on world's road each year. That accounts to around 3,500 deaths per day or 150 deaths per hour. So now it is not very easy to compare one accident death rate with the COVID-19 what we are going through right now. But out of curiosity, I was just comparing the numbers. I found that last 6 months, it has been 6 months, we are facing this COVID-19, and the death or the fatal death due to the COVID-19 is around 3 lakh. So if I just compare, it is around one person per minute on in the world. Death rate is like one person per minute. Now, if you just compare that with the accident, it is around 3% per minute were killed on world's road every day. So that number is really really alarming. So as I said, it's not really fair to compare. Just out of curiosity, I was just thinking about the importance of road safety and how that should be taken care by the policymakers or the practitioners. Now, by 2030, accidents on road may become the seventh leading cause of death. That's again very alarming situation. Now, where India stands in terms of road safety. So this statistics is not really based on the total number of road traffic fatalities per population. It is a total number. So in that total number, India ranks first just after China. So coming to the what is the implication? We have got road accidents that it is nearly creating 2 to 3% of national GDP each year is lost due to the road accident. That really gives you about the scenario what really we were going through, and that is like in India, which is around 400 deaths per day. Therefore, it is very important for us to understand what are the factors, identify the factors which contribute for the accidents on Indian roads. So, many research has happened in this particular area. I would just like to show you one statistic which was really shocking to see. It was so seen that fault of driver is the major cause of accident. That means around 77 percentage of the total death is happening due to the fault of driver. If you see other factors like fault of drivers of other vehicle, defect in the vehicle, defect in road condition, fault of all together will cause only 23 percentage. But fault of driver is causing around 77.1% of the total death, whatever is happening. So that really tells about some quality of driving, some problem the quality of driving what we are doing, right? So and this particular question needs to be answered. How to improve that? Where are we lacking? All these things have to be discussed. So I would like to tell you that this particular question will be discussed a little later. Now the next thing is, if I have to improve any system, every system has got several components, right? So if you have to improve any system, then first we need to know what are the components of the traffic system. All of you know about this. First thing is about the infrastructure. The vehicle itself is a component. The driver is a component. Other road users, right? They are the component. Then the enforcement is also part of. So which area we need to focus? Infrastructure. If you are building a if you are building a safe infrastructure, that will create, and if you maintain it properly, that can improve safety, obviously. If you're providing a vehicle, which is nowadays we have got a lot of technologies to improve the safety inside the vehicles, right? So that is not really a concern. Now, wherever the human elements are involved, that means these three: driver, other road users, and enforcement. These three are very important areas, or are the components we need to really focus on. Now, coming to infrastructure, as I said, infrastructure, it's all about road facility we have. So first thing is, in order to ensure safety, we need to have a safe design of infrastructure. Then the construction of infrastructure should be such a way that it ensures the safety. When I say design of infrastructure, what about the design? If I take those who have taken masters in transportation engineering, or maybe a little bit in the undergraduate level also, this design of infrastructure we have covered. So wherein we have studied that we have got vertical alignment, we have got horizontal alignment, we have got stopping side distance, you have got overtaking side distance, so you have got super elevation on the road, you have got many things to be taken care when you actually design the road infrastructure. Coming to the construction of infrastructure, what all things we normally say about the skid resistance, right? So majority of the accidents happening, especially during the rainy season, mainly due to the skid resistance, lack of adequate skid resistance. So what are the materials we can use there? So all these aspects need to be considered in infrastructure. And the third and the most important one is safety audit of infrastructure. I will discuss this safety audit and remaining things in the coming slides in even more detail. Coming to the design and construction of safe infrastructure. First of all, let me tell you about, there are n number of points to be discussed in this one, but I'm just focusing on a few, but just to give you an insight on what is really important. The first thing is consistency of horizontal geometry, avoiding monotonous straight lines or abrupt change of speed. So those who have traveled, you understand that if you are having a very monotonous way of driving, or if you feel that the road has got absolutely no disturbance and it has got a straight line, then you kind of feel boring while driving, or you might feel sleepy, right? So there are many incidents in the recent past. Accident happened mainly due to you know sleeping, or the distractions happening to the driver. So these sort of things. A recent one of the recent accident happened in Kerala was KSRTC bus was crashed on truck, right? So that was also one of the reasons cited during the newspaper at that time. Cited was the truck driver was sleeping. Okay, so it's not a very it is very normal that you have micro sleep when you actually travel. So consistency, we cannot really go for a monotonous or straight line when you travel. The second thing is adequate offset distance from the natural roadside features. For example, when you are traveling, if you, especially for highways and high-speed road facilities, you should have adequate facility from the natural, roadside features. Not only natural roadside features, at times you will also have, you know, bus stops are also placed in highways, right? So most of the time, what happened was there is not adequate spacing provided or offset provided from the road to the bus stops, and we are not even providing bus bays as well. So it's very important. If you are providing bus stops or something on road, it's very important for you to have enough adequate offset distance. Third one, carriageway. You have to, when you are designing an undivided carriageway, then it should have overtaking adequate overtaking side distance.
Okay.
Width, lane width, and shoulders for high speed roads. That is also very important. You should have a wider lane width. Inside widening for sharp curves. This is a different term used over here. That's something called extra widening. If I have studied transportation engineering, you might have learned about extra widening. What is actually extra widening? Extra widening is it consists of two components. One is the psychological widening, and the other one is a mechanical widening. So if you are traveling on curves, or if you're designing curves, you have to provide sort of extra widening. So that's also very important. Then the next one is the recoverable slopes for out of control vehicles. Recoverable slopes, the term might be a bit unfamiliar to most of you. That's more like we call in India, we call it as escape ramps. Escape ramp. Escape ramps are provided if you're traveling in hilly areas and coming down, traveling down, and suddenly if the vehicle is going out of control, then you can use the escape ramp or this, recoverable slopes, so that that will reduce, the impact of the accidents, and you can actually reduce the speed of the vehicle, and you can bring it under control. So that's the purpose of that's you can see a picture provided at the right side. You can see an escape ramp is provided. I'm not sure how much, how many escape ramps are there in India, but this is a very frequent thing in European countries. Okay, then the next point is about segregation of slow-moving, non-motorized traffic from fast-moving traffic. Obviously, when we have, non-motorized traffic, that includes, the bicyclist and the pedestrian, even pedestrian also considered in as a vulnerable road user. So it's very important for us to have a separation between the non-motorized traffic and the fast-moving traffic. That's very important. But in Indian conditions, especially in Indian conditions, we have got a mixed traffic, very mixed traffic, and it's very difficult for us to have separate lane, mainly due to the physical constraints. We don't have enough capacity on the roads, and we don't have enough land also to acquire. So it's very difficult to have a segregation between slow moving and fast moving traffic, but at least on high speed facilities, or in the major arterial roads, and we can have go for a segregation for the slow moving non traffic and fast moving traffic videos. Now, coming to the next point, it's a provision of raised footpaths for pedestrians, especially in urban areas. If you are providing it level with the road, that create a lot of issues. So it is very important for us to have raised pedestrian footpath in urban areas at least. Then the next thing is about traffic calming measures. There are a number of traffic calming measures being practiced these days. Like you have got speed humps, you have got rumble strips, you have got small roundabouts, etc. These are the traffic calming measures. As I said, these are the points which I found is very important, and which are most of the time not given due consideration when you design the facility. So there are many other points, but due to the time constraint, I cannot really go beyond this. So let us see the next few things. I told you about a road safety audit. Road safety audit is, before that, I need to tell you about two things. One is uh, measures for improving road safety can be categorized into two. That is, the first one is a proactive approach, and the second one is a reactive approach. What's the proactive approach? Proactive approach is the one which we won't wait until accident happen. We just need to take precautions. It's more like, prevention is better than cure. So you have to take adequate measures must be taken before even the accident happen. That one example for that is a road safety audit. The other one is the reactive approach. Reactive approach is once accident happen, you take care of that particular area. Okay, continuously accidents are being happening. You analyze the accident, you go to the accident, crash data analysis need to be done, black spot analysis needs to be conducted at those areas, and then you understand, okay, the reason for accident need to be understood. Then accordingly you take measures for improving the road safety. So there are two approaches. One is a proactive approach and the other one is a reactive approach. Now I'm talking about a proactive approach. That's a road safety audit. Road safety audit is nothing but is a team of experts will go and visit and they check and ensure the safety of the road infrastructure during its feasibility stage, during the preliminary draft design stage, detailed decision stage, construction, pre-opening stage, and in the existing roads. That means during the feasibility, when you actually go to the field to check whether the project is really feasible or not, do we have enough land to acquire and to provide safe infrastructure. During the preliminary draft stage, traffic design stage, when you design it, you check for the safety, it is properly being arranged, all facilities are designed properly. If it is not, what happens? You will give suggestion, team of experts. They will give suggestion, detailed design will be carried out. Again, they will have inspection. The team of expert will inspect those design. Then go for the construction. During construction, they need to make sure that the material being used is proper. That will ensure the safety. Uh, they are doing the construction properly, ensuring the safety. Right. All these things are very important. One more thing is, during construction also most of the time we will allow traveling, right? So is it really safe? Is it really safe that allow travel during the construction stage? All these things are very important. Then the pre-opening stage, when you allow the vehicle to or the traffic in that particular facility, you will have to check for the ensure the safety during that period. So that's also very important. Then comes in the existing road. So once you constructed the road, it is not over. The team of experts will again and again visit that particular facility which is being created. They will ensure every time, I was fortunate to go for a few safety audit with my professor when he got some few safety audit project at IIT Kharagpur. So near to Kharagpur, we have got national highways like NH64 was there in near to Kharagpur. So what really happened was like every once in 3 months or 4 months we go for the audit. We see whether the facilities are being proper or not, whether the lighting. So we do this safety audit during daytime. We also do this thing at nighttime especially to ensure whether there is proper lighting, whether it is visible for others when you take curves and all, it's properly demarcated or not, the median is properly demarcated or not. That's one of the most important thing when it comes to safety audit, because most of the time the median are not properly demarcated, so that need to be ensured, otherwise crash will happen. That need to be ensured, right? So all these things are ensured during the road safety audit, which is carried out at different stages. Now the question is, who can be a safety auditor? That's such a big question. So not everybody can go and do the safety audit. You have to be an expert. How do you prove your expertise? You need to have a set of, you have to work of auditors, certified auditors. You should get certification from nowadays we are in few IITs are doing this certification course, obviously, and this is traditionally this is being done by CRRI, Central Road Research Institute. They are having this particular course for the safety audit, and if you complete that course, I think, if I'm not wrong, it is for the course duration is around 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So that will be very intensive coaching they will be giving you to do the safety audit. Once you get the certification, and if you have experience working under some certified auditors, then you can be a safety auditor. Now, there are few things I would like to share with you. show here. I would like to show one video as well, but since there's a network issue, I'm not showing that. Even if you make mistakes, even if you make mistakes, you sometimes create facilities like modern crash barriers. You have three-dimensional pedestrian crossing. You can't see many in Indian conditions, but those who have are being to the foreign countries, and they will see that these are called forgiving nature of infrastructure. Even if you make mistake, the infrastructure is created in such a way that it will not create much it can reduce the impact of accident. One such thing is about a rolling crash barrier that is there in the video. If possible, I will show it in the later stage. uh, a rolling crash barrier means it is actually constructed at the sides. It's just like a barricade, a crash barrier. So if accident happen, what happens, the vehicle go and crash on this crash barrier, and that will roll, and it can actually reduce the impact. So it will be more clear if I show you the video towards the end of this presentation. Now, this is quite interesting because this nowadays you have got vehicle which are intelligent vehicles, right? You have got all the safety features in that, right? So ABS, anti-lock braking system, you have got regenerative braking, you have got multiple things to ensure safety. Obviously, there are many softwares available to check the safety of vehicles as well. There is one called Madimu software that is usually to study the impact of accident, right? That's a software. So similarly, there are a number of things. I don't have to explain this portion better because mechanical part, and that everybody who use cars understand those features really well. So that's about the vehicle and infrastructure. Now let me go back to the question we have asked before. Of the accident are happening due to the fault of driver. That means around 77% is happening due to the fault of driver. So there is something wrong with our drivers, right? Something wrong with the drivers. So what's the real reason? Now, what do you mean by how accidents are really happening? So we were trying to study what could be the real cause of accident. Lack of understanding about the traffic rules and regulation obviously can create accident. And the control device and the vehicle you are using, if you are not skilled enough, right? If you are not skilled enough to drive, then that can also cause accident. Now, what is a safe driving? Safe driving means if you have knowledge, if you have skill, then you are called to be a safe driver, and your driving is meant to be safe driving. Now, if you have to be, that means you have got knowledge and skill. Skill is something which you can acquire when you keep on. If you are experienced driver, your skill level is very high. What about the knowledge? It's about the traffic rules, regulations. All these things are part of the knowledge. Now the real problem is we are focusing more on the skill always. Even if you go for a driving license, if you are going for a motor training school, they tend to give more importance to skill rather than the knowledge, right? They will give you a small book, very small book, which contain a lot of science, a lot of marking, very few repeated questions, right? That's it. Not much about anything, any other, regulations, legal aspects, or any shows that the knowledge part is not clearly addressed. So as you can see in this particular presentation, the slide, the skill is something as you keep on drive, as time passes, you will acquire the skill of driving. Obviously, you will acquire the skill of driving, but at the same time, the knowledge is something. If you're not updated about the knowledge, then the chances that you might not have adequate knowledge to drive. That is also possible, right? So that is the skill. Knowledge part of the driver is not adequately addressed. So how to address that particular part? So this is my experience I'm sharing here. We have got we have got a project at IIT thesis over there. I was also part of this project. In fact, this was not my thesis work, but I was also part of the team doing this research. So we have got a work from government transportation department, government of West Bengal, to improve the driving licensing system of West Bengal. So the driving licensing system that include many components. It's not simply just you say some give some recommendation, you make it strict, you relax certain things, you improve certain things. It's not just 1 day or 2 day work. It was like you should really have to do a thorough research on that particular area. So the project was on. So first we thought of we had to start from the scratch because this particular area was not much explored, at least in our laboratory. So we had to start from the scratch, review a lot of materials related to the driving licensing, so CMVR, Central Motor Vehicle Rule, right? So those things have we had to refer to that. So first we decided we'll go to some of the motor training schools and the motor vehicle department near to the Kharagpur, and also to go in Kolkata. We cannot really do all, we really go to all MTS motor training schools in West Bengal, but we had to take some samples, and we went and visit some of the motor training schools and the motor vehicle department where actually the driving licensing procedure is happening, right? So some of the gaps we identified, I would like to share here. We found that a substantial variation we observed in the driving licensing procedure. Why? Because most of the cases, in some motor vehicle department, they were conducting the learners test. They do have an online test. Some cases they do have offline test. Some of the cases, we were really shocked to see that. I mean, some cases there is not even a learners test. They simply go and pay the money. They will get in a few days they will get the learners certificate. Then they will do the skill test. Okay, so the fun part was the skill test itself. I was really fortunate, to say that the procedure in Kerala, what we are following in Kerala, is far better as compared to any other state in India. So we were reviewing a few procedures like that, and I was wondering, they were doing skill test simply asking the drivers to drive forward and take the reverse. That's it. Like what we are following here, we are doing H. We are asking them to take H, but there we are not doing. I mean, they are to do any such things. There is no road test most of the time. Sometimes you just need to go forward, backward. That's it. Your skill is certified. Right. So a substantial variation. We found this in many places. I can't say that every place it was so. No, but most of the places we found practices of this kind. You just simply go pay and you get the license. So we found a substantial variation in the driving licensing procedure in majority of the places. Then we also visited, as I said, we also visited some of the motor training schools. What's the importance of a motor training school? So we go to motor training school most of the time. It is not also important for us to go to the motor training school. If you are if you know how to drive, you can simply pay the money and you can take the license. There is no issue. You have to go to the physician and you have to get the medical certificate and everything. That's a different story. But you can help. Now we thought motor training school has got a lot of importance. We went to some of the excellent motor training schools also were found, wherein you have got all the classroom facilities to teach the knowledge part. They have got demonstration of different vehicle parts. Okay, that's very important. First aid demonstration in case of emergency, how as a driver how you have to react to that one. So there are many aspects that a motor training school can teach. But unfortunately, in many of the places it was not there. But some motor training schools, I won't say any name over here, but some reputed motor training schools have got very good facilities to do this particular training. So that was really amazing. Then we found lack of adequate and updated knowledge of trainers. The present rule, you need to have only 10th pass. I mean, to be a qualified trainer, you need to have a different certification that is obviously there, but you need to be a 10th pass, right? That's a minimum requirement, and you can go for some other training and you can be a certified trainer. But what about their knowledge? That's really a concern. Whether they are adequate enough in terms of knowledge, are they updated with the knowledge, the change in rules, the change in road signs, change in markings, road markings, changing the facilities, right? Are they updated? No. We found that there is a lack of adequate and updated knowledge of trainers of MTS. Then we also found that, as I said before, if you wish to take learners, you will get a small book which contain only maybe 5 to 6 pages, right? Very few pages, and you will have to by heart those questions are asked. You just need to by heart those things without thinking much. You just need to do that. The condition in Kerala is much better, but wherein when we went there, we could find only a single page. Where single page, because the MTS people, they are quite sure that only these questions will be asked by the motor vehicle department. So it's very easy for them. It's very easy for the drivers. It's easy for the motor vehicle department. But the real concern is road safety. These drivers, if they are not competent enough in terms of knowledge, and if they drive on road, that is going to create a lot of trouble. So that's a real issue. So the a comprehensive learning material was not there, which is not followed anywhere. Now, then we thought how to overcome all these things. What should be the methodology to be adopted to improve or to address these gaps or the issues, as I said. The first was recommendations to improve the quality of MTS. So we said that in the driving licensing procedure itself, we have made a lot of changes. We said that motor training school need to have a big role in this driving licensing whole procedure. That means they need to take at least 40 hours of theory classes. 40 hours. Don't think that that's too much. If you really read Central Motor Vehicle Rule, CMVR, and the driving licensing procedure, that to be given to the aspiring drivers. But most of the times, it is not happening. So we insisted to have biometric system to be used in the motor training schools. They need to be taught for 40 hours. They will have the attendance. That attendance sheet will be connected or connected to the motor vehicle department. So once they complete the 40 days of training, they will be giving a certificate. They will be sent to the physician to check for their vision, all hearing, everything, right? So those things to be done, then only they are qualified to go for the knowledge test or the learner's test. Before the learner's test, the motor training school itself should conduct a test with the students, with the aspiring, I won't say students, with the aspiring drivers. They need to conduct a knowledge test, and marks of that knowledge test also should be taken to the motor vehicle department, so that they decide whether this particular person or the aspiring driver is qualified to conduct a learner's test or not. This learner's test itself, we have done a lot of modification. I'm not going to detail for that. Then, so the recommendations to improve the quality of MTS, that is given. So now the duty of the MTS to ensure that the driver is or this person who is going for the test is really qualified. Now, if this same driver is making mistakes or he is doing violations later on after getting the license, the first person to be caught or blamed would be the motor training schools. So there is some grading system also being given to the motor training schools. Then After that, they have given a 3-day training for the trainers. So the name of that, name of that training program itself was Training for Trainers. So we at IIT Kharagpur, researchers of IIT Kharagpur, professors of IIT Kharagpur, interdisciplinary, different departments, different people, they joined. They taught the trainers how to train the aspiring drivers. So they were given a 3-day training with all comprehensive materials were given, presentations were given to them. We also shared the presentation with all of them, and they are adopting, whatever we have taught them. We found them; they are adopting that. Then we have also given training for school bus drivers. As you know, school safety or safety of school children, that's a very sensitive issue, extremely sensitive issue in place like West Bengal and all. The road safety has been, or the children's safety has been a serious concern, because they are very vulnerable. They don't know what to do in terms of when an accident happen, or in terms of emergency. If you need an evacuation, they don't know what to do. It's very emotional and it's very sensitive. So children's safety need to be taken care with utmost seriousness. So we also have given 3-day training for the school bus drivers in majority of the schools in Kolkata. We have developed a comprehensive learning material. As I said, we have reviewed number of journals, we have reviewed number of practices in India as well as outside foreign countries. We found very good practices in countries like Qatar. They are following very strict rules. Saudi, in Australia, they are following very strict procedures. It's very difficult to get a license in foreign countries. It's not very easy that as you get here. So we have reviewed number of practices, number of rules and regulations. We have also referred to IRC, pertinent codes of versions of IRC, Indian Road Congress codes. We have seen the road traffic signs and markings, and whatever markings which are not there in Indian codes, we have adopted those from the foreign codes, and we have developed a comprehensive learning material. And I will show you that learning material soon. And we have also given recommendations to strengthen the driving licensing procedure in terms of knowledge test that I have already mentioned. So, as I said, we have developed a comprehensive training manual for drivers, and there were 10 chapters in that. The first chapter was about know your road. That's more about classifications of road. If you are driving in arterial roads, if you are driving in high speed roads, you should know this road is an arterial road. As a driver, you should know that it's not only for the practitioners, it's not only for the engineers. It's very important for us, the drivers, to know about the road. You cannot do this particular act on this particular road. You cannot do this violation. This is a speed limit of this particular road. So that was the first chapter. Second chapter was about the road signs. Road signs. Okay, so that was mainly from the Indian Road Congress IRC codes. Then we have got road markings. The next chapter was about road markings. There are many markings which are not currently practicing in Indian conditions, but which are very important for ensuring the safety. So we have adopted those from the foreign references. We have also got rules for safe driving. Rules for safe driving, there are n number of rules for safe driving. One small example I will tell you about the black spot. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of a black spot of a driver, right? The term might be familiar, but probably majority may not be knowing what is really a black spot. You may know that, but as in the term or the definition of black spot may not be quite familiar. So black spot means those when you're driving, those position or those location which you see either by the mirrors of the vehicle or in your cone of vision. You can't see that either by directly through eyes and also by the mirror. So these areas are called black spots. So how to tackle those black spots? That's very important in the case of truck drivers. Uh, the area of black spot is much larger. So it is very important for a two-wheeler, if they are actually following a truck, it's very important for the two-wheeler rider to know that this truck driver has got a very large black spot. He cannot see majority of the portions, right? So I have to be taking care of that. I cannot simply closely follow the truck. I cannot I cannot simply overtake, by violating the overtaking rules. I cannot simply overtake the truck. I have to be very cautious, I have to be very careful when I actually do overtaking in such cases, right? So black spots are very important. Similarly, there are number of rules for, so, parking, how to do the parking, how to do the parallel parking, how to do, vertical parking, right? So perpendicular parking. So these are the things which are clearly mentioned in these rules for safe driving. The next one was about driving in complex and sensitive environment. I think you might have seen some, at least in some WhatsApp videos and all, you might have seen, especially during this foggy season, in North Indian roads, we can see number of cars, crashes happening, in line by line, right? So many problems happens in that way. So in such condition, how to drive? Another important area about the complex environment, right? That's about the construction. If you're having a construction happening on road, if you're having construction happening on road, how to really allow the traffic during that particular time? Because during construction, that place won't be safe enough to drive just like in the normal condition. So it would be very difficult for us. It is very important to make others understand, or the drivers understand, how to drive during the construction stage. So that fifth chapter was about the driving in complex and sensitive environment. The sixth one is about vulnerable road users. Who are the vulnerable road users? We can say pedestrian, we can say the cyclist, no, bicyclist, right? So how do we have to take care of them? They are vulnerable because they are not protected by, a machine, protected by they are not in a protected environment. So they are vulnerable road users, school children, they are vulnerable, old people, right? Physically disabled, right? So those people, I mean, how to take care of them, how to take care of those road users, that is very important. Then comes about the alertness and attitude. That is very important. Alertness and attitude means how you actually behave in terms of, in case of, if somebody, if you are honking a lot, right? If you are honking a lot, then the other driver might stare at you, or you may have a slight, conflict, or I won't say accident, a miss accident, or I would say that a small conflict, a pedestrian, vehicle to vehicle conflict, or maybe vehicle to other road user, a pedestrian conflict. So in doing that, you have to behave yourself, right? What should be your attitude? How you have to be, I mean, you have to be always alert when you are driving. See, always, it's actually a myth. I mean, it's actually a common belief that, every driver think that they are the best drivers in the world. They are the I'm the best driver. I will not make any mistake. If anything happens, any accident happens, that is due to the others, or the problem with others. It's not because of me. That's a common myth, right? So that's the problem. So you have to be always alert that, even if you drive properly, chances are that others make mistake, right? Others make mistakes. So you have to kind of, foresee that others are going to make mistake, and you have to be very careful during that particular time. So that is this sort of alertness and attitudes, and those things are actually dealt in chapter number 7. We have got chapter number 8, which is about accidents and emergencies. If you have, in case of accident, right? Accident happen, what you have to do?
If you have got minor injury, what you have to do? If you have got major injury, what you have to do? How you call for the help? How all those minute details are being discussed in chapter number 8. And ninth one, the most important one, the first aid. So we had an MBBS doctor who is currently working in IIT Kharagpur, BC Roy Hospital, IIT Kharagpur. So Dr. Swam, so he was part of this. He was also part of this training manual. He has written that ninth chapter about the first aid, what you have to do in case of emergencies. In case of emergencies, what should be the first aid to be given? Right, anything can happen at any time. So what should be the first aid? What are the medicines and materials you have to carry in your vehicle, right? And the last one is about the legal aspects of driving. That's also very important. If you are caught for some violation, what you have to pay, what are the punishments you might get. So this particular driving training manual for drivers was all about a comprehensive, so it was a comprehensive material which included all aspects of the driving. And I was also part of this training manual for drivers. We included the professors, a few professors were there. The last chapter, the legal aspects of driving, it was written by a lawyer. So different people from different disciplines were involved in this training manual. It was not just made by an engineer. It was made by all, by consulting all people, stakeholders in particular area. So this particular manual was accepted. It was accepted by the government of West Bengal. If you go to the, or if you simply type in Google, training manual for drivers, government of West Bengal, they have given it in their website. If you wish to read through them, if you wish to read, you can even download from there, and it is absolutely free for. So you can see this training manual in the latest. I can also show you the screenshot of that. That's not a problem. So that's about the knowledge part. Now, I just want to mention a few more things. I hope the time is not yet over. Yes, we have got a few more, around 15 minutes or so to continue. So this might be a little boring, but I wish all of you can follow this. I will try to make it as easier as possible. So, what are those don'ts we have got while driving? You may have seen many do's and don'ts, but maybe in that book which we have got to study for the learners test, but this could be a little different. The first do is reduce the speed at curves, obviously, because at curves, depending upon the radius of the curve, as the radius gets smaller, the curve gets sharper. So if you have that, the centrifugal force will be very high, then you cannot really control the vehicle if you are traveling on curves. So it's very important for you to reduce the speed. So most of the most of the time when you're designing a curve, especially on high speed road facilities, you can see the design speed is written on the sides, right? As a sign, you can, the signboard, you can see this is the speed. You have to follow that speed, and if you are not following that particular speed, that will actually create accident, because all these curves are designed for that particular speed. Never overtake at curves on undivided roads, obviously not. Always leave the rightmost. So these all instructions are a part of that book. Okay, I have taken from that book. I thought there are some interesting things, so I just put it over here. Always leave the rightmost lane empty while driving on national and state highways. Rightmost lane should be only for overtaking purposes. So I have seen, when I was driving, most of the times I have seen, all lanes are occupied. Even if you are going fast, if you want to overtake or not overtaking, if you have multiple lanes, then that will create a lot of issues. So it's always important to leave the rightmost lane empty while driving on national and state highways. Don't overtake vehicles to a signalized intersections to cross the road quickly. But this is a very common practice. We cannot really see that much of violation in. See, to be very honest, it's not there in Kerala. I'm not very sure about it, but if you go to West Bengal, in a congested city like Kolkata, you can see this very frequently happening, overtaking the vehicles in queue at intersections, and that create a lot of chaos. And no other vehicles will be able to move forward. Then one cycle of green will be over by the time you get out of the intersection. So those sort of chaos are normally happening at the intersections. Stop the vehicle before the stop line when the traffic signal is red, obviously. Don't drink and drive. These are some of the points that I have got. On two-way roads, this is very important. On two-way roads with adequate illumination, only low beam while driving at night time, especially at night time. You keep on using the, you have got, you can see the road properly, and it is properly illuminated. You have got enough light on the road, then there is no way you are going to use. It's not important for you to use the high beam. That will create a lot of chaos. But if you're traveling in a place or a street where you don't find adequate lighting, then obviously you can go for a high beam. So where to use the low beam, where to use the high beam, it is clearly mentioned in that textbook or the driving manual I have shared. Don't contraflow, don't drive in reverse in. See, that's another important issue. When we were actually doing some safety audit in NH64, we found that the major problem was contraflow. That means if you have one way, you are not allowed to travel in the opposite direction. But people, what they normally do is they take reverse. They take reverse so that it will not be visible to the the policemen that they are doing contraflow. So those sort of practices, that's very dangerous, especially in one-way roads. We have got drive clockwise direction in roundabout always. Obviously, yes. Don't use mobile phones while driving. Maintain a safe distance. This is very important. Maintain a safe distance while driving from the preceding vehicle. So you have to, a thumb rule is that you can maintain some distance as well. So normally, as you can see from this figure, if you're traveling at around 120 kilometer per hour, you have to maintain at least 2 seconds. Okay, if you're following a vehicle, you have to maintain a gap of 2 seconds. That is equivalent to 67 meters. That much of you have to distance maintain. If you're traveling at 80 kilometer per hour, then also it will 45 meter, but time is still 2 seconds. So it's easier for us to think while driving. It is easier for us to think in terms of time rather than the distance. That's why it is always saying that maintain a 2 second gap while driving in normal condition. And if you're driving in complex, as I said before, the rain, fog, right, this time and in such conditions you can go for a 9 second gap as well. So that is also very important. Don't get agitated while driving, and don't misbehave with other road users. Don't race with the other rage. Don't race there with other drivers on the road. That's also very important, because concentration is a very important thing when you drive. So if you are, I myself have experiences of having losing the concentration. If I'm getting nervous, if I'm anxious, if I have if I'm I'm angry with somebody, if I'm thinking something else, I lose my concentration. That will clearly create chaos when you drive. That can simply use your driving. Then always give right of the way to emergency vehicle, give priority to pedestrian and bicycles at zebra crossing. This is one thing we often not follow in our conditions, right? In emerging countries or in developing countries like India, it's bit of a doubt, right? Because have been to few other places wherein, especially in European countries, they respect the vulnerable road users a lot. They, if you're traveling, if you find a pedestrian is just about to start crossing, the vehicle will stop there and they will allow the pedestrian to go, and then only the vehicle will start from there. So that sort of culture and behavior need to be developed here as well. But we can always argue that our population is very high, we don't have enough infrastructure, we don't get enough time to travel to reach the place. It's always I have to be always driving very fast. But uh, maybe that is true because we have got that much of population, and the capacity of the road is also less. But to some extent we need to follow all these rules. Otherwise that's going to create a lot of issues, because pedestrian accidents, even in NH, the recently inaugurated Kollam bypass. Okay, I was doing a study over there. I found that more than 100 accident happened in last 1 year after the inauguration. More than 100 accident. After those, out of those accidents, around 18 20 percentage of the accident was pedestrian accidents, hitting by the car or so. So that number is really scary, because those roads are not much used by the pedestrian. I mean, the high speed road facilities, but still the number of accident happening to the pedestrians is very high. That's not really that's really an alarming sign. So giving priority to pedestrian and bicyclists at zebra crossing, those things are very important. You have to keep, if you are parking near the bus stop, you have to have at least 10-meter gap towards the right side, 20-meter towards the left side, you have to have 10-meter. So these sort of rules are clearly mentioned. If you are parking near the crossing, pedestrian crossing, you should have like 20-meter, 10-meter gap, right? And if you have any turning, if you have having any turning, then you will have to have in railway crossing and all, you have to maintain certain distance when you park. I'm not sure that all this information are available in this detail. All this information are, I'm not sure it's not available in any of the books which we are referring at the moment. So these sort of informations are very well explained in the textbook. You can refer to that. Then these are some the do's and don'ts. You have got maintain the you have to maintain lane while driving. You cannot simply keeping shift and I mean shifting to left and right. Those sort of things cannot be done, especially on high speed facilities. So mental exhausted. There's a rule that you cannot drive continuously for more than 8 hours. If I'm not wrong, the number I'm just doubtful about, 6 hours or 8 hours. I'm a bit doubtful, but you cannot drive continuously for more than that much time. So if you are doing that, that will create mentally exhausted. You will be physically exhausted. You will lose your concentration. You won't be able to drive properly further. That's really an unsafe practice. So not more than 1 billion driver on the motorcycles. Traffic signals, everything should be very clear. See, signals, most of the time we understand what the signal, what does it indicate and all. But the flashing red light, flashing orange light, what is that? Or yellow light, what does that indicate? Most of the times we don't. Flashing red indicate you stop, then you see if the vehicle are not moving, then you can, if you have got adequate gap to cross, then you cross it. If you have flashing yellow or orange light, then you see that you have to uh, drive slowly, then take care of, I mean, make sure that you have got gap, and then you pass. So these are the set of things which people normally have got the safety gears when you are driving the in bike. You have got safety gears. See, one important thing I would like to mention here. I'm sorry taking it too long, but this is very important to say here. When we are crossing the intersection, most of the time what happens, if you're turning left, you show the left indicator. You when you're turning right, you put on the right indicator lights, right? And I found not every drivers, some of the drivers, if they have to go straight, they use a hazard blinkers. They use a hazard blinkers to indicate that they are going straight. That can create a lot of problems. If somebody is coming from the side of that vehicle, he will not see the two lights blinking. he will only see one light blinking, so he will assume that he's taking right or left. So that will create a lot of accident. So do not use hazard blinkers even if you are going straight. I'm sure that majority of you are not doing that, but somebody, if you understand, okay, these are the practices which you have to tell to our aspiring drivers. They don't know about all these things, so it's very important for them. Because when I was doing my learners test, I had no idea of I had not enough understanding about all these things. So once I was doing my research on, then only I understood the gravity of the issue. Then only I tried to tell my colleagues or my friends and everybody. I used to tell about all these small rules and all. Then there was several lectures. We have conducted the training for the drivers. You can see the leftmost figure. You can see we have the training conducted for the school driver, with the assistance from the help also from the West Bengal police, and this was that campaign we have got in West Bengal. They have got a safe drive, save life campaign. As part of this, they have got all these projects and all. These are a few photos of that. That was the main aim of this campaign, was to spread education and awareness of road safety. So I hope that was uh, not much boring, and I would like to show you one small video if time permits. I would like to show you a small video about the rolling crash barrier, which I was mentioning a few minutes. I mean, a few minutes back. There's a rolling crash barrier, which is not used everywhere. Which is not used everywhere, but in India also in some hilly roads and all, they are using this rolling crash barrier, and that's really helping them to reduce the impact of accidents. I will show you that video. I hope it will be visible to all of you. So you can see that there is a this is basically a test on MASH TL3 sedan test, but you can see what's really happening. You can this has got this crash barrier, has got a rolling material over here. So once an accident or crash happen, then that is tend to because of that rolling effect, the impact of the accident is actually getting reduced. So very minimal effort, or very minimal will be there on the vehicle. So this is not practiced every, as I said, this is a very good material, but it's very expensive. But lot of money is being poured in this particular area of road safety. Road safety, World Health Organization, they are funding a lot. In India itself, we have got many projects being funded by the central as well as state government for improving the road safety. I was wondering why such facilities are not adequately explored in at least in our I mean, high speed facilities. So these sort of facilities can really improve the road safety, especially in high speed road facilities. So when they actually impact, it is having a rolling effect, and then it is turning. So imagine if it was not a rolling material, then what will happen? That will simply go and crash over here. So that the impact will be much higher. And one more thing, as I said, the training manual, this is the training manual we have developed. This is a training manual. You have to see Transport Department, Government of West Bengal, training manual for drivers adopted by Government of West Bengal, and it is now practiced in West Bengal. So there were around 10 chapters in this particular document, starting from Know Your Road. So these are the table of contents. You have got know your roads, road signs, road markings, rules for safe driving, driving in complex and sensitive environment, so and so. So we also have given, so it contains all the signs, all road markings, everything, road markings, all the guidelines required for the practitioners. Also, so it's not only for the drivers. Anybody, any aspiring or practitioner or the policy maker or who is practicing as a safety engineer can actually refer to this material. So this was not really, I have not introduced this to anybody else. So you can see the number of things are being given, and at the end of each chapter we also give set of questions as well. It's not that you will be asked same question, and this set of questions are given to motor vehicle department, and they made a huge database. They made a huge database with all these questions, and they are using that for conducting the learners test in government of sorry in West Bengal. So I hope it was all I haven't took much time, I guess. It was 3:15 was my targeted time, and I have completed at 3:10. I hope it is okay now. Now you can switch on to, I mean, you can ask questions or any discussions if you want. If on a particular area, you can ask for it.